Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Jared Ellenberger, and this video is going to be to tell you a little bit about the type of content you can expect here on the channel. This is our channel mission statement video. While I'm telling you about that, we're going to have a match playing with old school Jeskai Geist in the background. This deck runs 2 copies of Stormbreath Dragon and an Elspeth Knight Errant in the spaces where you would normally expect to see Spell Queller if you've been watching the recent SCG circuit. This video was recorded when I was practicing for SCG Columbus, which occurred early this January. Get back to our main topic. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my experience since I started playing Magic. I started playing Magic in the summer of 2016, and I immediately had some beginner's luck, winning 2 GPTs that summer, qualifying with 2 buys for GPT Pittsburgh and GPT Richmond. Following that, I also had a top 8 PPTQ finish near Pittsburgh in 8th Revolt Standard. In the following week was Grand Prix Pittsburgh, in which I went 5-3-1, just missing out on day 2. So hearing these accomplishments, you're going to realize that I'm not the best player. So if you came to this channel to watch one of the world's best Magic players, might I recommend any number of professionals. Instead, if you're watching this channel, you're here to improve along with me, because that's really the purpose of this channel, is to help me improve and hopefully provide you with some entertainment as we do so. A few of the ways I plan to improve from sort of a theory perspective is just making sure that I have a plan, because currently I'm a very intuitive player. I just react based on my intuition to the things happening on the board rather than necessarily thinking through all the lines I should. And I believe this is an area where I have great room for improvement. Along with that comes understanding what my opponent's plan is and trying to interact with that, trying to interrupt their plan or further my plan greater than their plan is being executed. And this will help me to maximize on my win percentages, allow me to understand what choices I'm making when and which one is the correct choice. Additionally, I'd like to look back at some of the videos that I've recorded previously or be able to comment on them to teach myself when I make my mistakes and what I can do to minimize those mistakes in the future. Additionally, if we get to the point where there's enough interest either from my local Magic community or from all of you online, I'd like to begin some dual commentaries. I believe there's an article written a few years ago about how whenever you play Magic and you have one of your partners, one of your teammates, something like that, sitting alongside you and reviewing your lines with you before you make them, it actually helps you to improve your play in general, because you get to hear the multiple opinions and insights into the way the game's going to progress. And you'll start to think in that same way and have both perspectives handled or at least exposed to. So that's another way that I'd like to improve. I'd also like to do some strategy, theory, and metagaming videos, looking at different formats and how I'd like to attack them. Whether or not I have the resources to attack them in that way is a different story. However, I still think it's good practice to just begin thinking about metagames in that way. Additionally, I'd like to do some deck techs and theory crafting based on the decks I do have in Magic Online and in paper, and we'll also do some paper videos as well. And then I'd also like to begin testing sessions and showing you paper Magic videos. So hopefully all of these are ways that I can improve, and if you have any ideas for other ways to improve, then I'd love to hear about them. Just leave a comment below. And hopefully while I'm improving, you are also getting some entertainment, because we're going to be playing multiple formats, and hopefully, especially with Twitch, it will be much less formal there. We will be able to provide you guys with some entertainment so you can enjoy watching someone play the game that you also love to play. Lastly, I'd like to go over a few of the goals that I have for myself in 2018 in Magic. I try to keep my goals a little less result-oriented than this. However, my main goal for 2018 is to day 2 a Grand Prix. That was my goal last year as well, and I fell just short at Grand Prix Pittsburgh. So we're going to continue to work on that, and I believe if we work hard, we can accomplish that goal. However, in general, my goals are phrased less results-oriented, just like being happy with my deck choice or being happy with the way I played the game and understood what was happening between me and my opponent, and breaking down boards and things like that. So I think that's a much more realistic type of goal to have than to set some example for any particular tournament and follow through on that. So I believe that's a pretty good description of what I want to provide for on this channel. I hope you like the idea of it. And if you have any feedback on how it can be improved, I'd love to hear about it. Leave it in the comments. We'll go ahead and dive into analyzing this first game that's going on. So as mentioned previously, this is a old school Jeskai Geist versus blue-white control match. It appears that, let me look at these graveyards real quick. We're still in the developing stages of the game. I was lucky enough to have a spell snare for my opponent's turn to search for Azcanta, which is really what's kept me in this game, because if search for Azcanta had resolved and was able to flip, that would just be an overwhelming amount of card advantage, and I would likely not be in as good of a position. So I believe what we're going to do now is we're going to start trying to get my opponent to tap out on their turn by sending burn at their face and incrementally starting to dwindle down their life total, so that we can hopefully resolve either this Geist or this Elspeth on our turn and have a consistent source of damage. In the meantime, though, we're just going to continue to get in with this Snapcaster Mage. Control mirrors are often a lot about hitting your land drops, so you can see that this is a good indication of a game that's going to be very interactive because both players are consistently hitting their land drops. My opponent has hit more land drops than I have, however that can be expected because he is more of a full-on control deck than I am, which means he is the better late game. He probably has cards like Elspeth Knight, or not Knight Errant, Sun's Champion in his deck, which is just an overwhelming win condition. And because he's playing no creatures, he just has more options for board wipes and controlling elements than I do. However, I still believe we're favored in this matchup, as Geist is a complete haymaker as long as we can get it to resolve, which is why you can see us being very conservative, trying to make sure we have enough mana to back it up with a counterspell, and trying to get our opponent to tap out on their turn by using our burn on their end step. I wouldn't be surprised if our opponent goes ahead and takes out this Snapcaster Mage before too long, because he's gotten in for 6 damage already, and our opponent's life total is getting a bit low, so we are likely to get the result we want here shortly, with our opponent starting to tap out because they need to conserve their life total on their own turn, get the Geist to resolve, and then hopefully be able to take the game out from there. As I said previously, this game happened a few weeks ago, so I'm not entirely sure what the result is, but it should be fun to watch that along with you guys. Our opponent's gone ahead and gotten rid of the Snapcaster Mage as we suspected. Looks like we're considering playing this Geist out right now. Opponent only has 2 blue sources, so Cryptic's not online. And we have enough to pay for like a mana leak, or if we get 3 mana, I'm sure we'll just go ahead and let that resolve because we just get the Geist back anyway. Looks like our opponent is going to Cryptic. They actually just Stone Rain themselves, which is something that never really feels good whenever you have to do it, but sometimes it's just the correct line. Unfortunately for our opponent, they're going to have to tap basically out for this Cryptic command, and we have one of our own to back it up. So Geist is going to resolve here. And that's pretty much going to be the pivotal turn of the game, was making sure this Geist resolves. Not sure I took the best line to make sure it does. Probably could have been a little bit more patient to draw a second counter spell, or try to get my opponent to tap out a little bit more, but it did resolve. So now, as long as our opponent doesn't have some type of Wrath effect, we should be in a very good position. We just need to get this game over as quickly as possible to limit the number of draws he has to find a Wrath effect. Because he's playing Jace, it doesn't appear that he does have a Wrath effect. Our opponent decided to tick it up. I'm questioning that a little bit because, sure, it takes our clock down from 6 damage a turn to 4, so that's a 3-turn clock instead of a 2. But I think he'd rather just dig a little deeper with the Jace, and then at that point I'd be obligated to attack the Jace to knock it out, so that it would be a 3-turn clock anyway. So I think that's probably the line I would have taken. However, whether or not that line is strictly correct is up for debate. I imagine with Counterspell back up here, that was just on top, I apologize. I wouldn't be surprised to see us run out this Elspeth though, just to get our clock back up to 2 turns, because the second +1 ability on Elspeth Knight Errant is target creature gets +3/+3 in flying, which synergizes great with Geist because his biggest problem is being able to attack through opposing creatures, so giving him flying is obviously great because there are so few threats up there, and with the +3/+3, the majority of flying threats in Modern aren't big enough to deal with a 5/5. So Elspeth Resolves is really the final nail in the coffin for this match. I imagine we're going to wrap it up here pretty quickly. Might just continue to play a little conservatively because we are so ahead in this game that we need to be sure not to let it slip away, because our opponent has to get pretty lucky either with top decking a word wipe or maybe a Blessed Alliance or something like that to deal with our Geist. So our opponent doesn't have too many outs, and I'd expect this game to be wrapping up shortly. Path will buy our opponent a little bit of time. However, we're still fine letting that resolve. Not that we could do anything about it, just because that means we're going to hit our land drops. Shuffled away that Mana Leak whenever we decided to search off the path. I think that's fine because both players have so much mana that Mana Leak isn't likely to do much. There's an argument to be said for keeping it because we have Snapcaster Mage, so we can make it pay 6 rather than pay 3. However, I believe it was fine to go ahead and let it go whenever we have the amount of burn in our hand that we do. At this point, it's pretty much hopeless for our opponent to come back. They only have 1 card in hand. Even if they do manage to find a Supreme Verdict to kill the Geist, we are likely to wrap this up. I'm kind of surprised that I fired those Helixes off of Jace. I may have just been considering that he was going to -2, and that with him off the table, we have a 1-turn clock anyway, so that only gives him 1 draw step, as opposed to, that only lets him look at 1 card, as opposed to the 3 that he would see if he -2 Jace. So I guess that's not an awful line. However, I did trade 2 cards for it, so not entirely certain if it was the best. But drawing the bolt is going to be the final nail in the coffin for our opponent. They have no cards in hand, just going to attack for 6 here. He doesn't have a man land or anything like that up still. So that ought to finish this game off. I hope you've enjoyed watching this match. You can see me just hesitating, making sure I'm not falling for any tricks that might be occurring. I don't think it was correct for me to animate this colonnade, but I still have the mana to fire off the bolt, even if they do have an answer, which they do not. So I hope you've enjoyed the match. Thank you for listening, and I hope you're looking forward to more content in the future.